Phoenix Suns have been in a whirlwind of news. As yesterday, they just made a big splash in bringing in a new general manager in Matt Ishbia's friend, Brian Gregory. But with new details being revealed on the hiring, we now know why he was exactly hired, and it's for his specialties in a specific department. And with the Phoenix Suns obviously wanting to invest in that side of things and figuring out how they're going to restructure this team, this is the perfect piece to really address those concerns. So we're going to dive in and we're going to be looking at what Brian Gregory is really, really solid at for the Phoenix Suns and how he can turn that around for this team looking ahead at this year's draft. We'll be getting into all of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I am Bruce Velez, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support on these videos down below in the comment section, letting us know your thoughts on this team. But I do want to let you guys know that roughly right around 65% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed. So if you want to make sure you get everything on the Phoenix Suns, this is the place for you. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, we're going to dive in and we're going to explore all of this. So let's get into it. Make sure to grab that snack. And like I said, this is very interesting for Phoenix Suns fans, as obviously a lot of people are very uncertain about the Brian Gregory hiring. Ben did a video yesterday kind of going over the news, and a lot of people wanted someone from the outside, right? Including myself. We all wanted a new voice of reasoning. The person that was linked was Bob Myers, but any other voice of reasoning outside would have been nice. The Phoenix Suns wanted change. Matt Ishbia issued that there was going to be change, and we did see it, but we saw it internally, similar to how we saw in the regular season, as Brian Gregory was promoted from the front office into the general manager role, where James Jones was obviously demoted to stay in the front office, but is going to be in a lesser role with this team. Now, Brian Gregory is going to resume these powers from James Jones. And a lot of Suns fans, like Eric Ruby and myself, kind of are a little bit skeptical of this, right? Obviously, hiring Brian Gregory is an insane risk by Matt Ishbia. Hiring a friend, not someone with really much basketball experience, right? As we all know, Brian Gregory was a coach in college at Dayton, USF, and stuff like that. But he also could be a still be a good GM. We have yet to see what Brian Gregory has done, and from the inklings that we've heard with his hands, where he's been in some touches with the Phoenix Suns, which we'll get into in a little bit, he has been very successful. So for the Suns, this could be a positive outlook right now. What matters is results, but that is a huge gamble, and they better hope it pays off. And like Gerald Bourguet kind of let us know with Brian Gregory, he specializes in youth and talent. As Brian Gregory joined the Suns in 2023, mostly as a VP of player programming, but the press release said he was very instrumental in drafting Ryan Dunn and Osa Ighodaro, two really late first round pick and a nice second round pick that were very solid for the Phoenix Suns in their roles this year. Like I mentioned, he spent 19 seasons as an NCAA head coach at USF, Georgia Tech, and Dayton. Was also a Michigan State assistant while Ishbia was there. And I think this is key for Phoenix Suns fans to realize, right? The Phoenix Suns obviously are in a little bit of a cap hellhole with the salary cap, as they're in the second apron. They have long-term contracts in Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal, and they're looking to get into that first apron. And we all know they waive Vasily Micic, they waive Cody Martin, they can drop below into that first apron, but they're still going to have to make moves and still have to make changes to this roster to really beef it up. And with the Valley Suns having their inaugural season last year, really being solid, hitting the playoffs in their first season and finding some guys to develop, the Suns also finding that with some of their two-way guys and a guy in Colin Gillespie who really earned a roster spot towards the end of the season and should have been on the roster at the end of the year and hopefully will be back next season. The Suns have realized that investing in youth will help, right? We realized that last year in the draft when they drafted Ryan Dunn, someone that they felt was, a lot of people felt wasn't great offensively, turned around and had a solid three-point shot through the preseason. Now, did it cool down through the season? 100%, but he brought a skill set that the Suns didn't have and was a late first round pick that absolutely smashed it out of the park. You also look at Osa Ighodaro, another pick that was, a little bit disregarded due to his size and frame playing the center position. But for the Phoenix Suns, he's been able to show that he can be a great offensive tool within this unit and can be a fantastic backup big, I think, if he adds a little bit of size and muscle. So you put those two things together, Brian Gregory, so far from what we have heard from him, has done a solid job. So that's why I believe this is why Matt Ishbia exactly hired Brian Gregory, right? He wants to invest into this youth movement as the Suns don't really have that many youth players. And I'm not saying that means the Suns are going to rebuild. They're going to trade Devin Booker. They're going to be bad. But I do believe that the Phoenix Suns are going to go into a soft retool, right? They're going to have a team full of younger players around Devin Booker to allow Booker to be that number one option. Even if Suns fans don't feel they can be a championship player as a number one option, he can still be a number one option on this team and be successful, as we saw in the latter half of the season when Durant and Beal were both out. So with that being said, I do believe that Devin Booker will get into that role playing with some younger guys this season, and they'll have those youth guys really develop. And having a guy like Brian Gregory to invest and really pick and find out who those top tier guys is key. So that gets us into the next part where we're going to look at 3 players in these mock drafts that I think that Brian Gregory could absolutely hit a home run swing on if he was able to get them. So let me know your thoughts on Brian Gregory and on this hire. Like I said, a lot of Suns fans are skeptical, like Eric Ruby is here from PHNX Sports. Obviously, I'm kind of in the same boat as well, right? We don't necessarily know how it's going to go. So far, it looks so good. We don't want to make any assumptions, but I don't want to write off Brian Gregory right away. But next, let's get into the next part here for the Phoenix Suns and discussing what makes sense for this team heading into the draft and what makes sense for Brian Gregory to really analyze for this team. As like I mentioned, we have 3 mock drafts to really look at, and with this Suns roster being a little discombobulated, even if they do waive those 2 guys in Vasilij Micic and Cody Martin, only having 7 players under roster, it's going to be very difficult. Like, obviously, they can still trade Kevin Durant. They can still look to move off Bradley Beal. So we may see some more players also coming back. But I want to look at the draft. And for the draft, we all know the Suns are, no, not in the playoffs. So they should have a lottery pick. But that pick is in Houston's possession after they traded it to Brooklyn for Kevin Durant. Now, they may trade for that pick back and may swing a top pick depending on how the lottery falls on May 12th. But I don't think the Suns are going to be able to get that pick back. And with that being said, the Suns only have 1 pick, and that is the pick 29. And in pick 29, it is the Cleveland Cavaliers pick. They got that from doing the trade with the Jazz, setting their 2031 first for three later firsts. And I don't necessarily agree with that trade, but let's look at the players that are mocked to go to the Suns. 1, Thomas Sorber, as Thomas Sorber went to Georgetown, was a freshman, and he is in the thumbnail as you guys see. He was quietly one of the most productive freshmen in college hoops this season, averaging 14.5 points and 8.5 boards at Georgetown. He's a natural scorer inside with soft hands and a natural shot swatter on the other end of the roof. And I think that is fantastic for the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, we just mentioned Oso Ighodaro as a solid offensive big, but once again, the Phoenix Suns do have some holes in their big man group. Nick Richards is on a non-guaranteed deal. He'll most likely be brought back, but he's a fringe starter slash, backup big, and I think the Suns could still invest into this big man group eventually with a young guy to try to figure out who can be that key starting center, that guy to really take over and be that next dominating that they felt that they drafted at number 1. I think Sorber, obviously playing in the Big East at Georgetown, goes up against some solid competition, top teams like Creighton, UConn, St. John's this season, Marquette. So he has some good NBA competition and played against some good quality teams. And I think he can make a solid addition for the Suns. The next player is Cedric Coward. And Cedric Coward is a little bit different for the Phoenix Suns here, as this mock draft, the first mock draft, was from CBS. I want to give credit to CBS. This one is the Athletics mock draft, I believe, courtesy of the NBA app, and we see from here that Coward is a 6'6 wing that's 21 years old, a little bit older. Now, Coward, if you see at the bottom, committed to Duke earlier this week, and is a perfect fit there, but he, in this writer's opinion, that he believes that he is solid enough for the draft, but the Suns definitely could look and add another wing to this team. Once again, Ryan Dunn, Royce O'Neal, the only 2 wings on this roster if Kevin Durant does get traded, and that's been a major hole with this Suns team, right? They struggled defensively. They needed a top tier defender or top tier wing in the trade deadline, and they did not get that back. And that's why Cody Martin looked so explosive in his limited time run for the Suns, as he was only one of the other valuable wings for this team. But once again, the Suns could look that direction, add a wing, and go with Cedric Coward if he does enter the draft. And lastly, we see this one from Kevin O'Connor of Yahoo Sports, where he thinks the Suns should get Maxime Reynaud from Stanford, whereas he's a French forward pops threes, slashes to the rim, has a smooth handle, and makes eye-popping passes. As a talented passer who offers solid defense, there's little reason to think the freshman won't carve a role in the NBA. And once again, this is another piece the Suns could valuably use, right? They don't need scoring. They have that in Devin Booker and whatever other pieces that they're going to keep or have in Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, etc. Correct? They don't need more scoring. They need players to play defense. They need players to be able to pass the ball. They need players to have these intangible roles that can help out offensively and defensively, the hustle, the heart, the energy, and those young guys are going to bring it, right? A passer at the wing position would be something the Suns do not have. A playmaking defender, a little bit of a combination of a little bit of a less of a Ryan Dunn. Once again, still lacking that offensive ability. He does hit those threes a little bit better, but it would be nice to see the Suns invest into this youth program once again and adding some of this young talent to this core, right? We all know that the Valley Suns have been very, very key this season, and I think that would be great as well. Some other names that I think could also be addressed: Ryan Cockburner from Creighton. He also played alongside Thomas Sorbert here, but I think that he would be a fantastic piece, a little bit older than Sorbert, so maybe he could be a little bit NBA ready for the Phoenix Suns, and you saw him dominate in the tournament. And then also Danny Wolf, another big passing, big scoring, big that the Suns could invest in. I think will go a little bit earlier than the Suns pick at 29, but if he were to fall, I think he'd be another valuable piece for the Suns. As you can see, I think the Suns still need to address that big man group with losing Yusuf Nurkic and bringing back Nick Richards and also Iguodala. There still are some holes, but there are holes everywhere on this roster. And a guy in Brian Gregory is going to use his expertise and knowledge to fill this head coaching job and then use that and talent to figure out what his head coach wants and what he needs for this team to really develop to be a top tier contender, maybe next year or for the future, as well as they do this little bit of a reset here in Phoenix. And I think this is exactly why Matt Ishbia hired Brian Gregory, invest in this youth movement and get this direction going. So once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode here of Suns Digest, where we dove in. We looked at Brian Gregory, obviously, a little bit, and we dove into some potential picks that the Phoenix Suns could obviously look at and add for this team going into this season, as there are some major holes on this Suns roster. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns.